It was a quiet Saturday morning in Maplewood Estates, the kind of suburban calm that made you forget the HOA even existed. Birds chirped, sprinklers hissed, and my golden retriever, Max, chased butterflies across the freshly mowed lawn. Then came the sound, an odd buzzing hum, mechanical, persistent. At first, I thought it was a lawn tool. But when I looked up, there it was, a small black drone hovering directly over my backyard. The thing lingered, moving in slow, deliberate circles. I waved my arms, thinking maybe someone was testing it nearby. But then the drone dipped lower, almost eye level. Max barked furiously, and I caught the faint blink of a red recording light. That's when it hit me, someone was spying. I scanned the neighboring houses. But everyone's blinds were closed except one, Karen's house. Karen Mitchell, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, had been on my case since. I'd painted my fence the wrong shade of beige. She complained about my trash cans, my Christmas lights, even my dogs barking. She was the kind of neighbor who'd send an email to the board if a leaf dared fall out of place. The drone drifted closer to my porch. My patience snapped. I grabbed my old pellet gun from the garage, a relic from my teenage squirrel chasing days. One clean shot later, the drone spiraled down like a wounded bird and crashed right into my flower bed. When I inspected the wreckage, the SD card was still intact. My curiosity got the better of me, so I popped it into my laptop. What I saw made my blood boil. There were dozens of videos, all labeled with dates and addresses from around the neighborhood. Karen had been flying this thing over multiple homes, recording everything from backyard barbecues to kids playing in pools. I knew I had to act. So I put the mangled drone in a box and waited. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Karen came marching up my driveway, clipboard in hand, fury written all over her face. "You destroyed my property," she shrieked. "Your spy drone invaded my privacy," I shot back. She threatened to call the police. I welcomed it. The officers arrived, took statements, and left with the wreckage as evidence. That night, I drafted an email to my lawyer. If Karen thought she could bully me with her HOA power, she was in for a rude awakening. Little did I know that broken drone would ignite a neighborhood war, one that would end in court, expose secrets, and change Maplewood Estates forever. By Monday morning, the drama had spread faster than wildfire. Karen wasted no time weaponizing her HOA position. Flyers appeared on mailboxes accusing me of violent behavior and destruction of property. The HOA Facebook group, normally filled with lost cat posts and garage sale ads, was now a battlefield. Half the comments condemned me, while the other half praised me for standing up to the neighborhood tyrant. Karen wasn't content with online slander. She filed a civil complaint for property damage, claiming her $2,000 drone was essential for HOA surveillance purposes. That line caught my lawyer, Ben Watkins, completely off guard. "Surveillance," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Since when does an HOA need reconnaissance drones?" We soon discovered Karen had been using the drone to enforce compliance. The HOA board hadn't approved it. This was her solo crusade. She had spent months spying on neighbors, collecting evidence of trivial violations, garden gnomes, unapproved paint shades, grass an inch too tall. She used the footage to issue fines and shame residents into obedience. When Ben subpoenaed the drone footage from the police, it painted a disturbing picture. The videos didn't just show yards. Some zoomed close enough to capture faces through windows. It wasn't HOA enforcement, it was stalking. Still, Karen doubled down. She showed up at every HOA meeting with a vengeance, demanding I be fined, ostracized, and psychologically evaluated. The board, visibly uneasy, tried to mediate, but she dominated every conversation. One night, as neighbors murmured in the crowded clubhouse. Karen pointed straight at me and said, "People like him are why we have rules." I stood up slowly. "And people like you are why we have courts," I replied. The room erupted in gasps. After the meeting, my mailbox was stuffed with anonymous notes, some supportive, others calling me reckless. One said, "You're right to fight back. She's been watching all of us." It was signed only with an M. That night, I reviewed the footage again. In one clip, Karen's voice could be faintly heard behind the drone's microphone. "Gotcha," she whispered as she filmed my wife gardening. That was the final straw. I wasn't just defending my property anymore. I was defending my family's right to privacy. Karen had crossed the line, and soon she'd find out just how costly that mistake would be. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. It wasn't every day Maplewood's residents packed the gallery for a civil hearing. But this wasn't just any case, it was me versus Karen. Local reporters even showed up. After the story went viral on the neighborhood app, Karen strutted into court in her trademark pastel suit, chin high, clutching a binder labeled "Evidence." Her lawyer, a smug man in a pinstripe suit, whispered strategy in her ear. I sat beside Ben, calm but simmering. He gave me a nod that said, "Let her hang herself with her own words." Karen's attorney began with a dramatic monologue about lawless vigilantism and the destruction of vital HOA property. He painted me as an unhinged neighbor who shot down an innocent drone out of spite. Then came Karen's turn to testify. She claimed the drone was part of a community safety initiative. When asked by the judge if the HOA had authorized it, she hesitated, then muttered, "They were aware of my efforts." That was a lie, and Ben knew it. He called the HOA president, Mr. Alvarez, to the stand. "Did the board approve the use of aerial surveillance?" "No," Alvarez replied firmly. Karen acted entirely on her own. Ben presented the recovered footage next. Clip after clip showed invasive recordings, people sunbathing, kids on trampolines, even a shot of someone changing curtains through a window. The courtroom fell silent. Karen's face flushed red. "That's taken out of context," she shouted. The judge raised a brow. "You recorded your neighbors without consent. Context won't save you." Then came my testimony. I explained the sequence of events calmly, how the drone invaded my property, how it ignored my warnings, and how I acted in defense of my privacy. Ben cited state property law, which explicitly permitted homeowners to neutralize aerial intrusions under certain conditions. By the time closing arguments wrapped, it was clear where the scales tipped. The judge ruled that Karen's drone surveillance violated privacy laws and constituted harassment. My actions were deemed lawful self-defense of property. Karen was ordered to pay court costs and damages for defamation. The HOA was instructed to revise its bylaws to prevent future unauthorized monitoring. As I walked out, the crowd parted like a victory parade. Neighbors clapped, whispered "finally," and one man handed me a cupcake with "Drone Slayer" written in frosting. But as sweet as victory tasted, something in me knew this wasn't over. Karen didn't lose quietly. And people like her rarely forgive, they plot. For a few weeks after the verdict, life in Maplewood returned to an uneasy peace. Karen disappeared from HOA meetings. Her pastel SUV no longer prowled the streets. The gossip cooled, and for once, I could mow my lawn without feeling watched. Then, one morning, I found an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a single photo, me standing in my backyard, taken from above. On the back, a note read, "You can't shoot down everything." I felt a chill run down my spine. Had she bought another drone? I immediately checked the sky, but it was empty. My wife urged me to ignore it, but Ben thought otherwise. "She's pushing her luck," he said. "Let's file for a restraining order." We did, and it was granted. Karen was legally barred from contacting me, flying drones, or recording anyone in the neighborhood. But that didn't stop her from playing the victim online. She launched a blog called Freedom from Fear, My HOA Nightmare, painting herself as the hero who stood against a violent neighbor and corrupt system. Her followers, mostly other disgruntled HOA types, flocked to her defense. She even started selling "Justice for Karen" mugs. It would have been laughable if it weren't so creepy. Then came the twist no one saw coming. A new resident, Marcus Lee, moved into the house across from Karen's. Former Air Force pilot, tech hobbyist. Within a week, he caught Karen trying to set up a new drone from her garage. He filmed her red-handed and turned the footage over to the police. This time, there was no escaping consequences. Karen was arrested for violating the restraining order and for unlawful surveillance. The mugshot hit the local news before dinner. Maplewood cheered. A month later, the HOA voted her out unanimously. Her house went up for sale shortly after. Word was she moved out of state. When the for sale sign finally came down, the neighborhood threw a block party. As the sun set, I sat on my porch with Max at my feet, sipping a cold beer, watching the sky turn orange. The neighborhood was quiet again, the way it should have been all along. Somewhere out there, maybe Karen still dreamed of control. But here, her reign was over. The sky was ours again. And if another drone ever dares to cross that fence line, well, let's just say I keep my aim sharp.